You are now tuned into Flippin' the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 158 of Flippin' the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron, alongside an all-star cast tonight. So we got Eric Reese, we have Zach Chavalella, we have Morgan Burkhan, we have the one and only Jimmy Smith joining us for a live episode of Flippin' the Birds. Before we dive into it, I know everybody's great, right? But how are you guys feeling overall? Like, how's everybody's health? Because I had about 2 strokes and maybe 7 anxiety attacks on Sunday.
I was feeling great the entire time. I said Eagles by 8. I believe I had the widest margin of all of us doing the predictions. Turns out it should have been Eagles by 24. So
that's honestly that came to my mind too, Eric. During the game, I was like, shit, I really should have talked more shit during that podcast. Like in the back of my head, I think after we got off the podcast, in the back of my head, like every single day afterwards, I was like, honestly, like I think the Eagles might have this. And the next day it was like, oh, there's a real chance like this isn't that close. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying that, and I was just thinking back, and like it doesn't seem to do the Eagles well when I'm overconfident. Like the couple of times that happened, they just like it was Washington. I was like, there's no chance, and then they lose. So like I got to be tame, but God, I should have. You know what I mean? It was not close.
I don't want to rub it in your wound here, Morgan, but. I made my prediction, and I was like, you know what, F it, on my live show, and I put us down to win by 20 and a Hurts touchdown, which gave me plus 1,067. Ching! I was like, you gotta be shitting me. Like, I never effing win anything because I'm gonna put 16 effing things together in this parlay, and I'm never gonna effing win. And this time I was like, 2 effing things, that's it. Put some money, let's effing go. So I'm ready to run through an effing wall. My voice a little bit shot. I was there at the link on Sunday, losing my effing mind. And I still am recovering. So I love that you asked about health. I'm trying my best to get up, but here I am with all the energy for you guys. What a pleasure it is to be here. Brian, Eric, Zach, Morgan, love it, man. And everybody else in the chat. Let's effing go, because I think we're going to the Super Bowl.
Crazy. It hasn't really sunk in, man.
It really I was gonna say, like, for anyone else, is it like that? Just kind of like doesn't almost feel like real moment yet? Because is that because of the Purdy injury, or why is that?
I think we're finally getting our first test, Zach. I think that's what we're finally noticing.
Yeah,
you know what it feels like. You remember in Titanic when like Jack was holding what's her name, Rose at the end of the ship, and then
you know her name. Don't act like you don't know her name.
I was gonna say Dawn, so that's why it slipped my mind.
You looked around for the wife. What's her name again?
I can't remember.
I don't even know.
He's got the painting in his. I see it.
The moment that Celine Dion just comes on, like I feel like we're just on that euphoria trip right now. We're just like,
you don't know Rose's song. You know the song off by heart. You don't know Rose's name, but I guarantee you can sing that song.
I'm just saying, like it just feels like that kind of nostalgia. Like
I'm on the front of the ship. You guys are all behind me. We're all just flying together.
Jimmy's hair's in the wind and everything.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm Rose. You guys are just holding on. All right, I'm losing.
But it's a phenomenal feeling. Like that day, my wife got me an early birthday present. She got me a Jalen Hurts jersey, and I was losing my shit already. So I'm like, okay, I'm putting this on, watching the game. The whole time pacing back and forth, I probably put a hole in the floor. It was just like I've never even the NFC Championship game, like against Minnesota, like it didn't feel like this. Like I feel like there's so much more emotional investment in this team than there was in that past team, and it's centered around Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Like you've seen what these guys came through. Like Nick Sirianni was laughed off on his first presser. Jalen Hurts was called Taysom Hill 2.0. And now both of them are in the Super Bowl. Sirianni got snubbed for Coach of the Year, which still blows my mind as to why he's not getting in. And if it's Gardner Minshew's fault, that's terrible. But Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate. And shit, like we have a team for the next couple of years that are still young.
You know what's interesting is I feel like a lot of teams, like historically, it doesn't matter like how long ago it was, but they're kind of remembered or they're characterized by like their Super Bowl winning teams. And I think like last time the Eagles won, it was like, okay, like Philly's got this underdog chip on their shoulder, like that fits. And I feel like this is just adding another kind of layer, another wrinkle to like what a championship identity in the city of Philadelphia is. It's hard nosed, it's tough, like a lot of what we thought that 2017 was going to be. It's not that they weren't, but in the Super Bowl, like it was the most like yards in history, and we were like that whole season was like, oh, it's the defense, it's the Jim Schwartz defense, like they're gonna come after you, it's gonna be a lot of sacks, and then it didn't really happen. I feel like this is just kind of a reiteration, like let me reintroduce myself, what Philly football is all about, and it just feels like a little gratifying, where it's like this is like if I had to cheer for a team and I had to point to that team, like this is the kind of football we play, like this is that football that I like to cheer for. Like Philly's playing great football right now. They're winning in all kinds of ways. They're playing defense. They're playing hard nose. They're shutting teams out. They're shutting teams down. Like I understand there's injuries, but like it just felt like a lot of teams or a lot of dudes on that sideline, the 49ers, just like did not want to play Philly. That's what it felt like. I mean, Jimmy, you were there in person. Like the wind just seemed like it was taken out of their sails, man, early on.
Bro, it looked like they were scared. And, people were joking in the stands. Like, Brock Purdy does not want to play. Like, he took himself out. Like, my UCL. Yeah, so, dude. And it was funny because it's like, you saw the fans. Like, it would take over. I remember I was in the parking lot from like 7 a.m. all the way until the game. And I saw maybe like 4 or 5 that actually wanted to try to like everybody else was like either like 100 yards. Like, nobody was coming in the heart of it. And I'm sure there's places that were, but you could see the week leading up, right? I don't know if you guys feel this way, but look, I disdain the Cowboys fans and Giants probably more than most. But these 49ers fans threw me a real curveball this past week. Like, what
that's all I got to say, dude.
But they weren't ready, bro, because once they start getting that ass whooping, every single one of them in that stadium was having the worst day of their effing lives. And it was truly effing beautiful. And I think Brian and Morgan here just hit the nail on the head with why the excitement is so high. And, when you look at this team, how it was built last year, we talk about bumpy roads, and let's just stay patient because of how he hits this draft, hits this, with all this cap space we have, if we could build something. And so it's been like, we're just so nervous, right? Because even that Super Bowl, Morgan said, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, dude, we were dominant, but then Wentz goes out. And then it's like, holy shit. And each week you're like, holy fuck, we're winning here at the end. And we make it, we win it. It's beautiful. But like you said, there was no defense there. It was the most yards in history. And this year, it's the hope for tomorrow. I think that is what the difference is, where it's like, holy shit, dude. Like, not only were those people bashing this defense and Hurts and Sirianni, as Brian mentioned, not only were they flat out wrong, but they are all at the top of their game. And they're all very, very new to their jobs, whether it's a coach, whether it's a coordinator, whether it's a MVP style quarterback. Just saying, I really am beyond impressed with how far this team has come in such a short amount of time, but it's the hope for the future. And you've got Howie here. He's going to restructure people. He'll resign. He'll do all this stuff. Like, we're literally built to dominate. We've got 2 first-round picks next year. We're going to have cap space. The cap's going up. We're going to have extra like $20 million. The future is very bright, and I think that is why it feels so different, because it's like, yo, this is really happening. Like, we're going to not only compete for the Super Bowl, but I think we can be doing it for the next 5-10 years.
Here again. Exactly. And I think it's the emotional investment in it. Go ahead, Eric.
No, so I agree 100%.
Oh, okay. And just to the nostalgia of it, like, Jalen Hurts, like, I don't care nobody says, like, the kid is hurting, like that shoulder is hurting. Like, you could see his throws to AJ Brown where he's overthrowing him now. He's trying to overcompensate for the power that he feels that he doesn't have, but he's still doing it. He did it with his leg. Like, he took over that last drive and just put them away. And then you could sell it. He was grunting in his face. He was pissed that he was getting tackled, but he put them away. And it's like, damn, like, this is the kid that we have for the next possibly decade or so, right? This is the guy that we're gonna have competing against a Mahomes, competing against a Burrow. It just is weird because it didn't feel like that with Wentz. Like, Wentz, everybody was excited because it was number 2 pick. Yeah, this is a kid. He's a gunslinger. Yeah, great. But with Hurts, it was kind of like, I don't know. Like, it's just a weird. It's a weird. How do I explain? It's just a weird difference.
No expectations, right?
Yeah.
There was just right.
Well, and with Wentz, like, it just seemed like Wentz was the sun and everything else was kind of like revolving around him. And as much as it really should be that way with Jalen, like, he's like he does so many incredible things that like it's really hard not to focus on him. It really does feel like he's like a mirror, and he's just kind of shining the light on everyone else, which is like unheard of. Like even again, it's hard to compare. He's still early in his career, but with a lot of these quarterbacks, like it's hard to really think of. And we were doing this last week, like trying to compare him and stuff like that. It's really hard to find like a star quarterback that reflects so much of the pieces around him. Like it like whatever they need him to be that day, he's that guy, which is like really incredible
without complaint.
Yeah, and because once he starts coming into his own, like that's like I really don't like his ceiling. We don't even know because
he's only gonna get better.
Yeah, which is the craziest part, and like I just like I can't even think in recent history of like a quarterback that was so complimentary to the piece. And granted, they're pretty great pieces, like the Eagles are definitely a stacked team, and it's nice to have that. But I feel like even if they aren't, like they like Sirianni's creativity and Jalen Hurts' ability to use his playmakers, like they'll find ways to win, and that's what's exciting.
Was anybody else surprised that Jalen Hurts was taken in the second round?
I was surprised exactly by us. Like a lot of the talk at the beginning was really just around the arm, and there was a lot of disbelief in it. There's a lot of belief in him as a leader, but it's like, are you gonna draft a guy basically just to be a clubhouse cheerleader or something like that? I think that was more kind of the narrative around him because he just didn't believe in the arm at the end of the day. And we heard the Taysom Hill 2.0 or I think some people even thought he'd just be a poor man's Taysom Hill, kind of comparisons and stuff like that. I think people were thinking about drafting him as a weapon, not as a quarterback. And so the second round slide, I think he was projected in the second, if not the third round. So I wasn't necessarily surprised to see that. I was very surprised to see him go to Philadelphia. I think that we all were. I don't know who.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people were disappointed.
Grateful.
A lot of people were disappointed with that pick because it was like, okay, like, what the hell are we doing?
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because we just
paid. It was more Carson. So we didn't understand it.
Yes.
Right? Exactly. You're like, you just paid Carson. Now you're going to, and people were already hot for Howie. And it's like, wait. You're talking about a quarterback factory. Now you're trying to effing get a competition. So, dude, you had fans, the media going buck wild over this. And this young man, Jalen Hurts, stands in the fire, dude, as it all burns around him and doesn't give a damn about what anybody says. And for me, it was like, it was shocking shit. I was like, what did we just do? And there were so many kids I wanted in that draft that I was like, not Jeremy Chin. What did we? So I was definitely floored by it, but I love the kid. I love his talent. But like, Zach just said, it was like, so we just paid Carson. What is his role here? Like, he's a second round pick. Okay, maybe you're trading him next year. Like, what is the goal? And what the goal is what we didn't know was the front office knew Carson Wentz was a little bitch. And I'm sorry for throwing that word out there, but they knew. And they wanted to have a plan in place. And after that injury, they were like, all right, this dude can't even play a playoff game. And look at what's happened to him. They saw it, man. They saw it coming, and that's pretty wild. And now you look at it, dude, they were right. And that's wild, man. And they got a damn good player.
Was it CD or was it Hurts? Or was it the same draft?
CD? Lamb?
Yeah. CD was later. CD was in the...
No, I'm saying were they part of the same class? Like 2020 or
no? I think they were different classes.
And he was a first rounder. Yeah. I didn't know what.
I think Hurts came after.
CD was 2021. So Hurts was
what?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Because I remember the scenes like watching Oklahoma play, like and watching Jalen, and like be craving for CD Lamb. Like I'm watching this kid, like he's the future wide receiver of the Eagles. Like that's that was my thought. And you're seeing this quarterback in the pocket, and you're not even thinking about like, this guy could be an
CD's second year, is it not?
I think it's his third, 2020.
Yeah. No, you know what? No. Brian's right. It is the same year.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, same class.
I just looked up the CD one, so I need to.
That's when they didn't trade up.
That was COVID,
and then they didn't draft Justin Jefferson.
That was Rager, right? Was that the Rager?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that sure was.
Yeah. Isn't that so crazy? Like, you go into this draft, right? You see CeeDee Lamb go off the board. You see Justin Jefferson on the board. And then the Eagles draft Rager. You see them not draft Justin Jefferson. Yeah. Second round comes along. You see them draft Jalen Hurts. You don't see them draft Jeremy Chin. And it's like, it's just wild. Like, to so many people in that moment, it was like, that was probably one of the worst drafts the Eagles ever had. But
no, they got some mid. They got those backers in the mid rounds that were interesting.
it was like Patrick Johnson in them, right? If I'm mistaken.
No, this was wasn't this Sean?
Davion Taylor. No, but people didn't like Taylor.
Davion Taylor.
Wait, where is Taylor though?
The only pick I remember people liking was
okay.
The only player I remember people liking was Kevon Wallace.
Yeah,
I think
that was a Kevon draft.
Neutral on, but Kevon and John Hightower, Kes Watkins was in there.
Oh wow, okay.
And he was. I think that was it. Is that they liked the lower level because they were both supposed to be higher, him and Hightower, but they both had kind of non-physical issues that kind of let them slip a little bit. So there's a little excitement about that and Kayvon, but I think Sean Bradley too, just because of the local aspect. But there wasn't like a holy crap, we got this guy kind of feeling. Except for
like it hasn't felt like the last two drafts where you get a Jurgens, you get a Devontae, you get a Jordan Davis, and no Chloe Dean. You trade for AJ. Like it's just like what I'm trying to say. Like it's just so wild how in so little time it's just done a complete 180. Like this was supposed to be the rebuilding team.
Probably one of the strongest in my memory.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a rebuilding team for the next couple of years, and we fired a Super Bowl winning head coach. We got rid of Carson Wentz. We ate his money. We got rid of all these old wide receivers. We got rid of Zach Ertz, and dude, now we got like we have a team that can contend for like five years. I want to say at least 5 years, right?
It's interesting.
Dynasty season, baby.
Yeah, I remember like having those conversations when the draft was happening because we always do our draft show and stuff like that. And there used to be kind of an MO with Howie's draft classes. Like it was usually, and there still is like, but the athletic score was massive, right? Yeah. And then that was one of those drafts where it was like they were top tier, and like they got Jalen Reagor, they got Quez Watkins, they got John Hightower, which were all just like these athletic freaks, like Sean Bradley again. Davion Taylor, like Kayvon Wallace, like all these guys are just athletic freaks. And then the next draft class, and we're kind of been like, okay, what's the MO going to be? Is it going to be athletes? And again, like I still think that it was about the athleticism, but I think the Eagles kind of started. Maybe they didn't start the trend, but I just remember hearing about all these like strange interviews the Eagles were having with these guys, and, like how they were testing them and finding their character and all that stuff. And like, it's like, what's going on?
They're trying to be the smartest guys in the room. That's what it was.
But now that's just common. Like now you hear about every single team like putting these guys through this rigorous test, and it literally is so you can find that Jalen Hurts type player. It literally is so you can find that.
But the Eagles didn't even work out or interview Jalen Hurts.
Kobe Dean. Well, I'm sure they did their due diligence. Like they had their connections, right? Yeah. Like and so like they know. But I think that's what they're looking for is character. And you see all these like interviews or behind the scenes with Nick Sirianni, and it's just like he's the most team first guy I've ever heard talk. Like I don't think he's ever used the word I in like his life. It's crazy. He's always like team over everything. Like let's worry about what's in this room. And it's just like this culmination of the meshing of all these personalities where it's like it's almost like a hive mind. It's almost strange, to be honest, but like it's
a secret cult.
This is the payoff, right? This is the payoff. Is like during that whole game, like the Eagles didn't shut off. There's that one Christian McCaffrey touchdown, just bad tackling, but they didn't shut off all game. Like they
Marcus needs to start tackling at the hips. Like I'm getting tired of the diving tackling.
We need to re-examine the safety. Speaking of the safeties, I'm sure we'll get into the game, but that other safety out there was fucking incredible. My goodness.
I will say this though, going back to the mentality and the way that Hurts is just kind of brought up, and I'll say that because his dad was his high school coach, and I guess ABC or our local news station spoke to his dad today, and they were basically his best aspect to Jalen Hurts are the intangibles because he's determined. Is this determination is his strongest attribute. So yeah, I mean, everybody in the NFL, is clearly an athlete. I think finding that quote unquote dog mentality is exactly what is the culture of Philadelphia Eagles, and it makes them, easily the best team in the NFC. I thought, and I'll say this too, to this moment, and people were like, "Oh, I hate the people that say that the Eagles had an easy road." I feel like we had a pretty easy season because by the time it was like week 4 or 5, I was like, we can go undefeated this season. Mm-hmm. I already had that idea in my head because I just knew this team is like, even if we lose once, it's like on and off with it. Like, who cares? And that happened against the Commanders. We lose again. We have Minshew in there, and it doesn't work out. But also, you only have one loss with Hurts as your quarterback. and it comes really at the end of a bad play, that results in a penalty. So
it's kind of like having that one friend.
Like no contest in these playoffs. 14 total points given up. Like we're showing why we're the number one seed.
That's insane.
Flat out. There's no contest.
Number one defense too, man, and that's what. Yeah. You look at this team. I like what you said about the leadership. I think it was 2 years ago when you got Dickerson, all those guys. 6 out of 9 of those were captains, I believe it was. So that is literally what they're trying to build. So Eric, Morgan, exactly what you're saying there. It's that dog mentality. And I think, coming into the season, my confidence was so high because of that. And because of what, Eric was saying about Jalen Hurts. When I had the trainer from the Bro Barn on, and he told the story, 2 years ago about when Jalen Hurts was in the training room and the TV came on, they're like, you got to trade, Jalen Hurts for Deshaun Watson. You got to do this. And Gabe went to go turn off the TV, and Jalen was like, leave it on. And he sat there and worked out the whole time while these people were just sitting there talking shit on him. And he was like, that's when I knew that man meant business. And I started calling him the Terminator, and just his work ethic, everything you want to do. And, of course, I had a little bit of an inside track, and they were telling me, like, bro, these media people are messing up, dude. This kid is doing everything and then some. He's got the arm strength. He's got all the talent. It's just he hasn't had the same system since high school. So now we're going to get him in this system. We're going to teach him how we want to play things, and he's going to come out and dominate. And I'm like, you shitting me? And last year, his first year starter, I was like, no, you guys are right. And I talked about it, last year with the bumpy roads. Just be patient for this year because we riding, baby. And I think you guys nailed the, on the head there. But this team is just so dominant. It comes off as an easy schedule, right? The Eagles are actually 9-1 this season against winning teams. And that is actually tied for the greatest in NFL history against winning teams. So we've actually had the toughest schedule ever, and we've been the best at beating them. So
it just
that narrative, I know it's been out there because we're that good, right? Isn't that nuts? I think that's what Morgan was saying earlier. The optimism is so different this time, right? Because we're just that effing good. Like people don't even want to believe this defense is good. They don't want to believe Jalen Hurts has developed into an MVP. It's like, bro, there's nothing I can do for you. We are in the Super Bowl. Like it's happening, and it already happened. Like it's here, baby. We're here.
So let's talk about the NFC Championship game. Again, like we all explained our anxiety throughout the game. What is it? So my main takeaway from the NFC Championship game is the Eagles got a steal in Hassan Reddick, and I personally think he's the best offseason addition in franchise history. I get that they traded for AJ Brown, and AJ Brown to me is right there. It's 1A, 1B, right? But Reddick is just like he's the defensive Jalen Hurts. The guy was about to be considered a bust in Arizona. 4th year, comes out with 12 sacks, leaves them, go to Carolina, 11 sacks, comes to Philly, 16.5 sacks, and he's just so freaking efficient. Bro, like, I don't get it. Like, this guy, to me, it's a steal of the century. Like, this guy's phenomenal.
I'm not going to be able to stop here. Hassan Reddick is the weapon, baby. And let me tell you something why I'm so excited about this man, because I knew he was becoming a free agent. It was my goal when the first week, everybody, the season's over. Eagles suck. I knew it. We did trade for Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. Oh my God. And it was like, Jesus. I tried my best. I was like, if we can get Hassan, because here's the reason, not just because, Philly kid. Oh yeah. He's from Jersey. It's great. And I love that. Yes. He's a Sam linebacker. And if the media could have just understood what a Sam linebacker was, I think they could have been on board with why this kid was going to be so effing amazing. And so we signed him, and I'm like, losing my mind. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, we got ourselves a middle linebacker. And then it was, all right, he's down here. And I'm like, no. Do you understand that there was a multiple scheme defense coming our way, ladies and gentlemen? We ran it last year, but now we've actually got a Sam. This is not Jannard Avery. We've got a nose tackle in Jordan Davis. We got linebackers. It's not Alex Singleton back there. It's Kaiser White and TJ Edwards. You've got Bradbury over Nelson. And so the pieces, it was all there, how we could be a Super Bowl contender. You literally just had to add the pieces for this defense to work because, dude, we were number 10 defense last year with the pieces we had. So that just shows how amazing Gannon was. But then this year, you add the pieces he needed, and Sam linebacker is such a special different breed of position when you're in a multiple scheme defense like this. This guy can put his hand in the dirt and pass rush, which he will do. And I talked about preseason, maybe see him 5 to 10% dropping into coverage. 7% is, I think, what he ended the season with. And that's perfectly fine because you disguise the defense and they don't know what's coming at them. And that is why this team is so successful. The first team in NFL history with 4 players with 10 plus sacks, because you've got Hassan Reddick coming at you, but they're loaded across the line, man. And it's effing beautiful to see. And we already had the rest of it, right? Josh Sweat, and we were all very excited about his future. BG coming back from injury. You know, you've got Hargrave and Cox in there. We drafted Davis. So there's excitement, but you know, I love it. Yes. How about this? We traded for AJ Brown. So Hassan Reddick is the best free agent addition, right? Because they're both the best. You're right, man. How can you pick? It's like, oh my God. But Reddick is a freak of nature, and I couldn't agree with you more. And the slander he was getting, like, oh, well, he's not going to be able to play Sam linebacker. I'm like, do you understand that he started as a middle linebacker, went to defensive? That is literally the mold of a Sam, yes. And look at him go. A sweet little boy. I love you, Hassan Reddick. That dude has been feasting on souls, and I take a lot of pride in it because I made a preseason video about why this defense was going to be so damn dominant this year and be top 3 at the year's end. And he retweeted it. And I was like, you got to be shitting me. So I've been all year like, please don't make me look like an asshole. And dude, he did not in any way, shape, or form. So thank you.
Yeah, you just
sorry, I freaked out. I love
most dominant season.
And I mean, you're talking about ranking the additions, and like just because Hassan Reddick's been so good, we've been kind of overlooking just how good CJ Gardner-Johnson is. And like,
wow, yeah.
I don't know, like I don't know that the Eagles make it so dominant. Like I almost want to say I don't know if the Eagles win that game, but with the injuries, I think they did. If Brock Purdy stays healthy, and that's a different game. I don't know the Eagles win that game without CJ Gardner-Johnson. They had him playing deep thirds and also having to play like the gaps on outside zone for Christian McCaffrey. Like the assignments this guy had, like they had times where he was playing man on Christian McCaffrey. You know, he's B&E sometimes where he's like, he's got to read, run, or pass, and he's still got to cover the deep thirds, or he's got to come up and make a tackle on Christian McCaffrey. Like this is like high level, like top tier safety kind of stuff. Like you don't ask nobodies to do that. And, you know, we were talking about how last year and like Jonathan Gannon, like there's all those questions, you know, Jimmy said it, we're still top 10 defense. And like, I think we were talking about it on the pod too, Brian. It's like, you know, Jonathan Gannon's making Marcus Epps look like a starting safety in the NFL. Like there's something to be said for how good he is. If Marcus Epps is not a starting safety in the NFL, like, listen, I love it when he comes downhill and he makes those hits, but like, you know, he's just not, he's your third guy off the bench, and they made him into a starting safety. And you're starting to see like how good, if you get a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson, how good these safeties can look. And like, that's probably one of the most complete. I'm sure there's some film of like him, you know, messing up one of his zones and like maybe there's a completion in his area, but that's pretty much a perfect game from that safety position. He was all over the place. And then like a defensive line, like again, Hassan Reddick's so good. And like you saw Brandon Graham bitch Trent like he just tossed him. Like it's just like you can't win, man. Like it just, these guys are coming after you play after play after play after play. Like it's not just a Hassan Reddick, it's a rested Hassan Reddick. He gets to go off for 2 plays. And Josh Sweat, like that's another player, like we're not even talking about how his development, like there hasn't been enough articles about how good Josh Sweat's been this year. Absolutely not. Like that guy gets all the credit in the world. Like we talked about Jordan Mailata's development and how crazy that is. And like Jordan, no one thought Josh Sweat would be a full-time starter at defensive end and have 10 plus sacks and be a really good run defender as well. Like he's a really good run defender. And like sacks are the ones
his knee will not come out. They said his knee will hold him out from being a long-time starter.
Yeah. And
a high school knee. It was bad.
It's just incredible. Like you could talk forever about the pieces on the defense. James Bradbury's arguably better than Darius Slade, like right now, which is crazy to think of. You know, statistically this year he was better.
Yes.
But like I think he's probably your number one corner on this team right now, which is crazy, especially if he's playing the Giants. My goodness. But there's just so many pieces. TJ Edwards is a Pro Bowl linebacker, and like who would have thought that? Kaiser White's another one of those. Like I don't know if the season goes the way it does.
Avonte Maddox back, baby.
Avonte Maddox, like,
huge impact with him being back on the field for the defense.
I think you could probably put any of our starters on a different team and they'd still start.
Oh yeah,
and that's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
completely agree.
Yeah, actually, wow. Yeah.
So they're studs all across the board.
Yeah. Just end the podcast there. All right.
Might as well, right? Just call it.
Well,
Call it a night with
keep
that
it
one.
real. Have a good one.
But it is crazy to think of. Like you have that many good players and you're that team. Okay, maybe Marcus Epps doesn't start for every team, but
it's interesting because now you go into an offseason. I would hate to just think about that right now, right? But you have all these pieces that are on expiring contracts too. Like you have a Kaiser White who signed only a 1-year deal. James Bradbury, Garner Johnson is due for an extension. He's a free agent after this year. Marcus Epps, same thing after this year. You have so many moving pieces. Kind of like if you're the Eagles, like how do you pick and who do you pick? Like who's staying and who's going? Like you owe Darius Slay money, so are you going to invest more money into their position by re-signing James Bradbury? Or do you just go for Garner Johnson, draft a cornerback, and you have your running back leaving as well, and it's wild, like this,
Well, in the playoffs, Kenny Gainwell has been your best running back.
Oh yeah, wow, dude, like the kid's been
and
phenomenal.
that's not any slight to Miles Sanders. He's been fantastic as well, but I did not expect to see that out of Kenny, man. It's like Corey Clemens Super Bowl. Like it's like, oh damn, like this guy can play.
Yeah,
I think Kenny's got a brighter future than Corey, though. I think he's going to stick around. He's great in the passing, and you said it. He's been the best one we've had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think he's RB1. I personally think with the way he's performing, like there's no chance Miles Sanders is back. Like
had a bruiser.
There's like he was gonna look at it like we could save this money on running back and add it to a Gardner Johnson or keeping Javon Hargrave or whatever the case may be, and then Reed Blankenship is another guy. Like, yeah, the kid is he's another good player.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you, Brian. You look at this roster and it's like, well, let's look behind them. If a guy's a free agent, what do they got? Nakobe Dean waiting for him, or is it a Reed Blankenship type player waiting for him? So you got to look at those things, but you also realize, like, hey, Howie's a genius, and he is the one thing he doesn't ever struggle with is the damn numbers and restructuring and all that crazy stuff. So if he wants to add Bradbury back, he'll give him an effing 3-year contract, and the salary cap will be $50 million in 3 years. This year it'll be 1.3. You know what I mean? Like he knows what he's doing, so he'll figure a way. And I think that's where my excitement before the season started was because of the fact that we have those pieces waiting. Jordan Davis is waiting for Milton Williams, and him are going to be there. You've got Sweat. You've got guys that are literally in the wings. Zach McPherson, I'm excited about. So I think Reed Blankenship. I like him. I don't know that he's necessarily the future, but you definitely have a third safety there if you want to let Epps walk, whatever you want to do.
You can let Epps walk and keep Johnson and start blinking.
Yeah, you're keeping CJ. CJ's coming back. Morgan had mentioned it. That was the final piece. I felt like the Thanos, you put it on there, dude, the glove set, because that was, you needed a versatile defensive back, a guy that played nickel predominantly, but in this scheme, it doesn't matter. They're the same thing. You need that hybrid back. We've got like 7 of those kind of defensive backs. Zach McPherson, Josh Jobe, all those guys, Josiah Scott, they played nickel or safety. And that's how they work in this scheme. And there was a lot of skepticism if CJ, he's not a safety. And it really wasn't from Eagles fans. It was mostly from, little clowns like Saints fans or something. Well, you'll see. It's like, well, we did see that he ended the year with 6 interceptions, which was tied with 3 other people for the league high. But yeah, he missed 5 effing games. So the dude was phenomenal. We were number 1 in the league in turnovers all the way up until he went out. And then we ended the year tied for 5th. Still pretty effing good. But just goes to show you how effing dominant we are when that guy's on the field. And as Morgan just mentioned, that game, holy hell, dude. I don't know how many times it's just like, screaming, laying people out, bro. Boom. Just loved him. Yeah. I love him. I love him. Yeah. You have to resign him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that hands down, that has to be a move. What was I gonna say? So, in my opinion, another thing that's phenomenal that we also got to discuss is the possibility of this coaching staff looking exactly the same next year. Like literally, I mean, you have D'Amico going to Denver. You have D'Amico going to Houston. Sorry, Ian Rappaport and Shefty reports are throwing me off. Who's going to Denver? Sean Payne just got traded to Denver. And then I think the only thing remaining is the Colts. But I don't see them going for a Brian Johnson. I see them going for a Dyke and a Jonathan Gannon. Like it just feels like this team is like, holy shit, like this is we're gonna have some consistency now, not only in the roster, but also on the back end as well.
opposite of what happened in 2017, man. 2017, we just got poached.
Rob,
Oh
son of
my
a
goodness.
bitch.
Frank
Yeah.
Reich.
No, it's too bad we're not
No,
going to
I'm
be able
excited.
to enjoy the same coaching staff next season because the world's going to end once Russ says, let's cook, and Sean Payton's his head coach. The world's just going to explode. So we're not going to be
I
able
can't
to
wait to
enjoy
see
the
that.
Eagles season next year.
It's going to be truly beautiful.
Do the
time.
Saints have any first rounders?
That's such like a hell
They
in
just
a
got one.
handbasket,
Just got
like
one.
dumpster
Okay.
fire maneuver.
For Peyton, they got San
For
Fran. It was the San Fran pick, right? That they
So it's Denver
received.
that doesn't have any first round picks, right? Or they traded like
Yeah,
3 first round picks for Wilson.
They
and
had
James
like
Ryan?
their
First
pick.
round's really messy this year, man. It's
It
all
is.
over the place. There's a lot of first round picks traded.
Yeah, Denver doesn't have pretty much anything. They're in a hell in a handbasket, dude. It's
For
like,
old man Wilson.
it's awesome to watch.
Man,
Yeah.
you suck.
Dude,
Dude,
I was actually vouching for Wilson all off during the offseason. Like, yeah, let's trade for Wilson because I'll eat crow about it. I thought, and Morgan, you said this when I spoke about Jalen Hurts, I spoke to him as like this guy's the new version of Randall Cunningham, but just better. But then he had his downfalls and it was kind of okay shit. Like, maybe this guy isn't it. Maybe we should trade for Russell Wilson. But I'll definitely eat crow for that one.
we all make mistakes, my man. Happens. And look, you weren't alone, man. There was a lot of doubt for Jalen Hurts. So trust me, I got a lot of hate for a lot of things I've said the last couple of years. But we're all together now when we're heading to the Super Bowl. That's what matters, right?
Absolutely.
It's interesting. I know it's not exactly Eagles talk, but it's interesting. I was just talking about this with a friend to see Frank Reich get the same doubters that Doug Peterson got. Kind of like, so when the offense didn't look great after Frank Reich left Philly, and it was like, oh, is Doug Peterson that guy? And now you see Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. I feel people needed to see that. I think Eagles fans, we needed to see that too. It's like, this guy really does know what he's doing. But I'm so excited to see Frank Reich in a competent, like, listen, the Colts, I don't know what was going on. They're not a bad team, but they just never really made that effort to be good or like great. Like, they just were like, oh, like, we'll make do. I really think Carolina is gonna go. Well, I hope they go full steam ahead, because I don't know, man. Like, we know what Frank Reich's capable of, and like any coach, like, we're not talking Super Bowl, but like, I'm just happy to see Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. I know we're playing them. I'm not cheering for him, but like all these guys, like, it's just cool to see. Like, just I feel like it's just justification for like, oh, like how he's been hiring the right guys. Like, we've had this, like, all these great guys on staff, and now you're starting to see like this. I don't even know if you can call it a Doug Peterson coaching tree. I guess it's still an Andy Reid coaching tree, but
yeah,
there's trickle down.
It just has branches extending off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts consider Steichen, just because
and Gannon.
It's that same kind of tree, and like that's what they're looking for. And it was that's kind of cool to see. It's not really Philly news, but it's nice to see your coordinators go on and be successful elsewhere, knowing that we had them on our staff. Like, it's like a proud father moment, even though they're much older than me, and they don't know me at all. But
I like what you said there, though, with Shane Steichen, because that's what I was going to say. It actually concerns me, because the Colts, the familiarity, and I don't think they'll go after Gannon because they are a lot of time offensive minded going toward head coach. But look, you never know, and I would hate to lose either one of them. I'm a big fan. Again, caught a lot of heat for that, for Gannon and Steichen, but I'm a big fan of these guys because of the fact that they're also in their second years with Nick Sirianni. They're still learning themselves. So they're only getting better. And the one thing I said before the season started was, let's try to enjoy this, because we don't know if we're going to get these two guys back because they're that good. If they're being considered in their second year as coordinators for head coaching jobs, that's telling as to how, and they're smart as hell. So the dog mentality is the players, and genius mentality is for the coaches. And they're all like players coaches too. Like, you talk to any player, any trainer that's met them, they will tell you, like, these dudes, they love football. They feel like one of the guys out there. They're going to be catching balls with you. They're going to be showing how to hit. Like, they all played. Gannon played defensive back. Steichen, they're all now on an NFL level, but dude, it's a brotherhood. And you guys know, if any sport you've played, or even video games or whatever, when you've got that camaraderie, when you come together as a team, man, things get different in this team from top to bottom. And we'll go all the way. Howie, Jeffrey and Shoring. Howie, I'm putting you in the closet for a minute. You need to learn a little something, like a kid being put in the corner, comes out smoking it, wins us a Super Bowl. Okay, messes up, drafts Jalen Reagor, but he learns from it. got a little too high on the analytic ride, a little too many numbers for him. Calm it down here. Love me some numbers, but football is not all numbers, So I think he realized that and was like, maybe I'll listen to my scouts and people that know football a little bit more than me. So he started doing that. Along with that, are they a leader? Do they have that? You put all those things together, and you guys nailed it with, look at these last 2 drafts. Like, what the Howie? And I love what he flipped on that kid. Like, I redeemed myself. Like, yeah, dude, you kind of did, because you did mess up not taking Justin Jefferson. So people were pissed. The other picks were good. That's fine. But this is nuts. Like, they're all doing like top of their game. And it's like, bro, I'm telling you, when I like the old post about the dynasty, people are like, you don't know what a dynasty is. And I'm like, no. You don't know. What you have to understand is it's pieces in place that are going to be here for a while. And we're going to be this dominant. Think about this. Jalen Hurts, 2nd year as starter, 3rd year in the league. Just think about all of these guys getting better, the coaches, the players. Like, we're going to be a dominant force for years to come. So it's only going to get worse for the other fan bases and the media that hate us. It's going to be tough.
And then not to overlook as well, Gannon getting interviewed after the game saying, no, I'm not going nowhere. Philly's through the good and through the bad. I'm staying in Philly. Like, they're not going to let me go. So I'm curious to see what that relationship is like with the coach and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, like where Gannon is actually publicly saying, like, yeah, guys, I'm not going anywhere. Like that to me, that's bold as hell.
He wants to win.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just gonna say he wants to win and can't blame him.
I'm curious because I mean I know what my thoughts are, but I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the offensive game plan against the 49ers, because I think against the Giants, like I wasn't as convinced. They didn't need to be great. Like the Giants were just kind of outclassed, and the Eagles were just the better team. But without putting any thoughts in your head, like it's a pretty fucking perfect game plan on both sides.
I remember feeling pretty loose and optimistic, and not as just kind of like tense about everything. Right when Devontae Smith caught that. Pass. Yeah. Right when he caught that pass. Yeah. You're a Giants fan.
Time out. Hold on. Come on, guys. Like, it did. I mean, I'm happy. Listen, it shows how mature this team actually is, and how much of a reflection they are of the coaching staff, that Devontae knew he didn't catch that. And right away, it was like, guys, no, I didn't get that. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Nah. I didn't see that. I didn't see that because I choose not to. So it was a catch. And
let's go.
Yeah. So right when that happened, and the chains were moved and we were on to the next play, I was like, I'm feeling great. And then right when Sanders went untouched, and then he went untouched the second time, I was like, well, between that time, it was you had Sanders going untouched, but you already had Purdy hurt. And then as soon as I heard who the backup was, I was like, no, this game is deadlocked. It's over with. Like, I was pretty confident going into it, and then pretty early on, I remember not even being done my first beer and being like, we got this.
And I think that's kind of how it was once you saw the first of all the touchdown to put you up, and then on top of that the Purdy injury. I think once you saw that, the game plan really adjusted so that the real focus just became long sustained drives, which was one of the things that I think a few of us talked about would be kind of the goal of the game, would be both Philadelphia and San Francisco kind of battling for those sustained drives. And obviously without Purdy in there, San Francisco didn't have a chance at establishing that. And, the Eagles did a good job of containing the running game as well. Elijah Mitchell being out also helped that as well. But really just for Philadelphia's end, they kind of I think they already knew at that point that the game was in hand, as long as they just took care of business. They didn't need to be flashy. They didn't need those deep bombs to Devontae Smith anymore. So they were able just to kind of tailor it to the situation. And I think part of it is almost like preservation style. Like, I don't want to say they got overly cocky and arrogant or anything like that, but I think that they set their game plan in a way to just eliminate the possibility of mistakes. I mean, obviously you always have that worry of fumbles, but they didn't put Hurts in a position where he was going to get hurt until a little bit later in the game, actually, and he started running out a little bit more than I would have liked, but it worked out in the end. They didn't really see him, putting the ball into double, triple coverage, anything like that. And so to have that real just secure, fluid game plan call. Like, I loved it. I don't think you can do that necessarily against the Chiefs, but I loved that that's how they wrapped up the game against San Francisco. And I know that they have the variety to be able to kind of throw at Kansas City, and we'll talk more about this at some point in the future. Whatever whatever they need to do to overcome the Chiefs, basically. So I love the game plan for that particular game. I don't know that's how they play the Super Bowl, but I know that they have that variety, like I said.
I love what every single one of you just said there. And, I like hearing your perspective because a lot of times I miss a lot of crap when you're in the moment there. And for me, it was like I went into that with like super high vibes. I told you I put money on 20. I was talking shit all day in the parking lots, like just mad trash talking, dude. And, I felt confident, but I'm telling you, that team, when they came out, when I saw Lil Uzi Vert like leading the way, I saw them. I was like, dude, this is about like this place is gonna explode. And Dawkins had just did the Eagles chant 2 seconds before that, so this place is already on fire. And I'm like, dude, we're about to beat some ass. So they come out, everybody's flying around. We're all excited. That game starts, bro. Okay, we talk about the running. I agree 100% with those Miles Sanders runs, but I think for me, bro, it wasn't necessarily. I do agree with what Zach said. When Purdy went out, but what I saw in person, I didn't even realize he was hurt. I was just like, oh, it's going to be the longest day of their effing lives. That offensive line is getting wrecked. So I see a lot of Niners fans and people pushing narratives like, you would have never stood a chance with Brock Purdy. I'm like, well, on the first play, you proved that you didn't stand a chance. And, well, your offensive line wasn't hurt, and they proved all game when they gave up those 5 sacks and got their asses handed to them that, well, indeed, they were not ready for the Philadelphia Eagles. So once that first play happened, I was like, oh, we have already scored. We're up on it's game over, dude. So I felt the same way. And I was just telling my buddy earlier, we're on the phone, and I was like, dude, I'm beyond ecstatic about this game. But he asked me how the game was, whatever. And I said, at one point, everybody was up and like freaking out. Something happened. And I was literally just sitting in my chair, and my smile had to be from ear to ear, dude. I couldn't, like the pure joy in my soul, I couldn't move, but I had no idea what was happening because I was like, we're going to the effing, like it hit me, man. And I couldn't move. It was epic. And that happened in the first quarter. So I'm with you guys. It was pretty clear as day. That game was over. And one thing Zach pointed out was beautiful. It was vanilla play calling. I see, well, look at the stats you couldn't put up. And it's like, well, first off, I thought it was the #1 defense ever. And, we handed their asses, dude. 31-7. And he mentioned it, bro. Vanilla play calling. It was literally, we're being smart here with the ball. We're not going to be turning the ball over. We're not going to be getting anyone hurt. We're not going out here showing our hand before we play either the Chiefs or the Bengals, who we're going to have to bring it all out in that game. So why do we need to stress out when they can't even throw the ball? So I see the media trying that, and it's laughable because we did it on purpose so that Jalen Hurts, who clearly, as Brian had mentioned, didn't exactly look 100%. That's fine. We've got 2 weeks here. It's going to be in a dome. It's game time, baby. So I love everything you guys just said there, and I agree 100%.
148 rushing yards, time of possession 37 minutes 26 seconds for the Eagles.
Yep.
22-34 for the San Francisco 49ers.
Like different.
Run,
and it felt that way, right?
Ball.
Run the damn ball. That's for you, Drew, if you're still here.
If you're a 49ers fan and you're saying that the Eagles wouldn't have had a chance against Brock Purdy, there's not a leg to stand on because Brock Purdy started the game. So we had every chance against
or elbows to throw on.
Exactly. You could have protected him, and then we would have found out.
I'll let Brian talk first, but the 49ers made some questionable decisions.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then I guess I'm the only one. At the moment, I was very frustrated with the offensive game plan because I was kind of like, okay, like we're facing the #1 run defense and we're running the ball, and it's kind of like we're not doing much. And like I said, like you saw Jalen's shoulder was kind of like Jalen doesn't have the feel for it yet. He doesn't have the feel of where his strength is, and you've seen that against the Giants when he overthrew AJ Brown, and you saw it against the 49ers where he overthrew AJ Brown again, and then he actually overthrew Devontae Smith before he made that beautiful catch. But it was just frustrating for me because I'm like, damn, this is the NFC Championship. And then out of nowhere, like when you're seeing them just like, they're just chill. Like they're just they're playing how they want to play. And that's something that the Eagles have done great this season. So they have adapted to everything that somebody's thrown at them without worry.
They
And they've
slow
taken care
roast
of the
their
ball.
asses.
Yeah. And they literally just put them on the grill and just wait. And it's just mind blowing. And you said it right there, Jimmy. Like, Sirianni didn't have to show his hand. The Chiefs, yeah, you have tape, from the season, you have tape from the playoffs, but you don't know what the Eagles are going to come with. You really don't. Like, Jalen, for all we know, could just be resting his arm. He could be, throwing, like, testing it out. Like I said all season, where it's kind of like two things I said all season is if the NFC had to go through the link, nobody's winning in Philly. Point blank, it wasn't going to happen. Like, just because of the home field advantage. And the second thing is, like, all season long, it's felt like preseason for them, where they're just like they're learning about themselves through every single opponent. They're not stressing. They're not worried about the next opponent. No, they're worried about, okay, we did this in this game. Here's how we got to fix it going forward. And they're still freaking doing it, and they're in the Super Bowl now. Like, that's just mind blowing, because against the Giants, they didn't have a great offensive game plan. They really didn't. We saw the frustration at AJ Brown. And against the 49ers, it was the same thing. It wasn't a great offensive game plan, but they just executed. Like, they executed like no other team could. And you saw, like, Bengals and Chiefs, they couldn't execute very well either. But the Eagles are just doing it at ease against the number one defense.
Think about it, bro. In the first playoff game against the Giants, 268 rushing yards. I believe that's second in Eagles playoff history. And then this past game, 4 rushing touchdowns, the most in Eagles playoff history. And, you said it. You weren't really finding success, but you know where the success was? What Zach said. 38 effing minutes of time of possession. You weren't getting much, but you were taking plays up. You were taking 40 seconds each time. They were waiting for that clock to go down, the play clock. I was watching it, man. Like I mentioned, the slow roast. You're beating teams' asses so bad that why am I going to show you the rest of the season? We got bigger games up ahead, and that's been their mentality. And I love what you just said there. They are only going to get better each week, and that was something I stressed this season. And it's like, bro, if they're that good already, God, and it's better than I ever expected. Like, holy shit, what are we doing here?
We don't know the ceiling of Jalen Hurts point first and foremost, but we still have yet to see the Eagles put together a complete game, and that's scary. That's something they say they need it every week.
Man, we were talking last week with Nick about like what a masterclass in coaching we're about to see. The 49ers coaches are no slouches. 2 of the best in the league, probably. Like, there's a reason why DeMeco Ryans got a head coaching job that quick, and he probably deserved one sooner, to be honest. But this is the first time I've seen like the Eagles coaching staff play chess when the other team was playing checkers. Granted, when you're playing with your third, fourth string quarterback, you only have so many options. But like, I tend to agree with everything that Brian said, but I think there's a lot more going on with the offensive game plan than people realize. Like, you're having trouble at first running the football and getting outside because obviously Nick Bosa is going to chase it down. You're trying to keep him honest with the run option. Jalen Hurts wasn't able to get anything going. And the biggest thing is their corners were coming up and making tackles. So what do you do? Good. What do you do is you just send AJ Brown deep and shit. Okay. Like, Jalen Hurts missed a couple throws, but what it did is and really you don't expect Charvarius Ward to have a game like that. He played fantastic.
He did.
And he's manning up against, probably again, you expected them to come out in zone. They went, man, they said, shit, okay, we'll just take AJ Brown with Charvarius Ward. Okay, shit. That's probably not something you expected. But okay, if you're going to do that, we'll throw it deep. And, they might not complete any, but what it was is he started playing 10 yards back, and then you just ran outside zone after outside zone after outside zone. And you made Jalen Hurts stay in the pocket and do that long read just to keep Nick Bosa there. And Nick Bosa had, 3 tackles all game? Didn't do much. And
no quarterback hits, no hurries.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
And the outside zone killed them. Fred Warner's not fast enough to chase Miles Sanders. He's fast, don't get me wrong, but he's not fast enough to chase Miles Sanders after reading like a long fucking run option read. So he's there. He's pinned. They pointed out during the broadcast actually one play where Fred Warner's just kind of standing there, just looking. He didn't even move because he didn't know what to do, right? And it's just like this gameplay. There's so many nuanced things, and like I think people kind of talk about scheme a lot with like the passing games. Like that's really your schemes, like your West Coast offense, or like you like throw the ball deep. But there's so much going on in this run scheme for the Eagles that's so incredible. There's so many wrinkles, and like DeMeco Ryan just like sometimes you go on the sideline, he's just shaking his head. He didn't lose any players. Like he lost Fred Warner for a couple plays, but that Eagles offense dominated. Granted, they had some good field position for sure, but like D'Amico Ryans had no solution for that offensive game plan. And on the other side, I don't know why you think you can block Hassan Reddick with your third tight end chipping, but even still, I don't know if you guys like saw this. For me, one play that stood out is they put Fletcher Cox at a 5-tech on the end, and then they looped Hassan Reddick. Well, you can't chip Hassan Reddick if Fletcher Cox is there instead. You're not chipping Fletcher Cox, I swear, right? So like shit, like there are little wrinkles there where it's like we hadn't seen that all year. Fletcher Cox line up on the outside, really, like maybe once or twice, but like this is a solid part of the game plan. It's like they expected Hassan Reddick to get chipped, probably with George Kittle, not with their third string. But like there's so many little adjustments they made that the 49ers just weren't ready for. And it was that kind of masterclass is like the coaching, like another year with the exact same coaching staff it's going to be nuts. Like they're just going to be a step ahead of everyone. It's going to be crazy.
Dude, you said it. It's the offense. The defense is the same exact thing, man. You have the versatility to kill people in a plethora of ways. You know, Goddard was feasting in the beginning of the season. He was the focal point. Then he gets hurt. We're running all over. We know we can run with Miles. Kenny can catch the ball. Boston can do things at times. You've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So it's like this team, holy hell. But the defense, you know, I love what you said there. You know, one of the things I sought out to do this offseason was teach people about the multiple schemes, how these players can be used in different roles. Fletcher Cox playing that 5 technique, lining up as a defensive end, you know, doing things where you've got so many ways where literally a guy can turn in from a defensive end to an outside linebacker. You just move back. You go from 5 tech. I mean, we're doing so many different things that people, dude, it was pretty sad that what the media tried to do, you know, we're changing defense. The defense sucks. And it's like, okay, we were top 10 without these pieces. I guess we'll find out.
Almost set a record in sacks.
And then this year we do. We're third all time. And then we set the record for 4 players with 10 plus sacks. Like that just shows you how dominant this team is. But the turnovers, everything they bend, don't break. This team, bro, they will kill you in a plethora. Whoever you want to bring. Oh, Travis Kelce, that's cute, man. We got TJ Edwards, Kaiser White, and then CJ Gardner-Johnson's behind him. You want to dance with Vontae Maddox in the nickel? Fine. You want to go outside with him? Cool. We got Slay and Bradbury waiting for him. And we will definitely know that Travis Kelce is their focal point. So, look, man, we can stop any of your best players. Justin Jefferson, the greatest of all time. But he's going to be, that's cute because now he is Darius Slay's son. So, I just, and Bradbury's better. So you look at things and it's like, holy shit. Like we just come get some, dude. Whatever you want to throw at us, come get it because it's offense and it's defense and they're both coming back. And I think the excitement's in the air because they're going to win it. And then it's going to be, let's run it back. All about
I think the only player in Kansas City that when I was watching parts of that game that kind of really opened my eyes as a threat was actually Pacheco.
Yep. But he's no Christian McCaffrey.
Right, that's correct.
Exactly. Derrick Henry?
And we have success against those more agile running backs this season too. So it's like if that's the thing that's giving me, you know, a little bit of anxiety, then it's really no anxiety at all. It all comes down to Mahomes and what plays he can make.
I think McKinnon more than Pacheco in this game.
I think San Francisco is just a better team than the Chiefs are. But you know, Mahomes magic, you can't count for that. You just can't.
What about Hurts magic? Well, I made a post today, Morgan. You just said it. You know, we're just the better team, right?
Mm-hmm. We're better.
Offense, best,
really
one of the best.
If the team's better.
Well, we might not need it. We might.
That's it. Exactly. Hurts has the magic. Mahomes has magic. They're both playmakers, but they're a top offense. We're a top offense. Here's where the line gets drawn. We're the top defense. They're middle of the pack defense. So for me, dude, that's great. We know they have Mahomes. And people are going to lose their minds. Oh my God, he threw 15 straight completions. It's like, okay, but look at the scoreboard. What is it? They got 3 points right now. Oh, okay. I don't care. I don't look at the stats and say, oh, well, that's what matters more than the score at the end of the game. That's not me. And I think for me, this team, dude, we are going to go out here and this defense, I'm not saying going to stop Patrick Mahomes, but they're going to contain him and Travis Kelce. They're going to get after him. They are like third in the league giving up sacks. They are a good offensive line, but we just have a damn good pass rush. We force turnovers. They're middle of the pack there. And I think their defense being middle of the pack, you saw what this Eagles team running vanilla plays was able to do, putting up 31 points against this best defense ever. Yeah. Chiefs, we're about to put up like a 30-40 burger on you. And, you know, you better score more than the 23 points you just scored against the Bengals.
It's going to be another high-scoring Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really good game, and we are gonna hold our Super Bowl preview next week. So hopefully, we can bring Jimmy back and along with some other guests. A little bit of extra. But yeah, I mean, we're at the hour mark, and we tried to keep the Super Bowl talks to a minimum, which I think we all did pretty well with. But yeah, it's I don't know, like I'm still taken away by it that we're actually playing one more game this season.
I'm ready for it. I'm actually kind of irritated that's a week away. Like, I just
the worst.
Pro Bowl is such a fucking joke now too. Like, who cares?
I know.
Wait, hold on.
It's just
about
gonna be
the Pro
a dick
Bowl,
tease. Like, get out of here.
The AFC quarterbacks are a joke. Like, what?
Derek
What?
Carr just got in.
Come
Isn't
on.
it like the Baltimore
Huntley?
backup?
Yeah.
Okay, what's
And
he
then
talking
they
about?
just put Derek Carr in, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence probably deserves to be there. Like, sure, good for him.
Yeah,
like, yeah. But I mean,
Derek Carr's in it?
embarrassing.
Yeah, they put Derek Carr today in it.
Josh Allen's going to play golf because he's injured. It's like,
Is
what?
Nick Foles in it?
No.
You might as well. You might as
Should
well.
be. We should have voted for his
Jesus.
ass.
I'd probably watch it if Nick Foles was in it, to be honest with
I
you.
would
Good point.
actually, just because, I mean, if I had nothing else to do, like, if my girlfriend's like, hey, do you want to go to Goodwill? I'll do that. But like, yeah, I'm just not into the whole like all-starry stuff. Even with hockey coming up, dude, I'm like, it couldn't hold my interest, but
I might watch because it's supposed to be different, right?
My buddy Ryan
just
made
flag
a joke.
football and by the Manning brothers coaches.
If I hear that it's good after it's over, I'll watch a replay. I don't.
There you
care to
go.
watch it live. Like
My
I
man.
have to watch YouTube.
I love
I
your
don't-
thinking.
That's it.
I'll catch it on DVR.
I don't want to take credit because my buddy Ryan made this joke, but he was saying that they should make Christian McCaffrey the NFC quarterback.
I wanted to see him Christian McCaffrey.
I was
I
was itching for
I
that.
really wanted to see him sling it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he
thought we
had
could.
one opportunity. He had one opportunity, and then he just ran it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't want to see use check.
Well, there's that one that he threw like completely out to left field, and there was
Oh
nobody
right, yeah,
there,
that was
like-
yeah.
And they were like, "Pretty, all right, come on, bring that elbow over here."
We were laughing so hard. Like those
Bro,
Niners,
you got one arm, come back in the game.
bro,
Use your
those
left arm, come on.
fans over there on their side, I can't imagine how, because I was on the opposite side, but I can't imagine because you could hear it, dude. Like, because we were, just laughing and making fun of every bad play they had. Like, dude, it had to be one of the worst games for their players, and especially the people that came all the way across the country to sit
For
there
sure.
in the link. And, bro, to talk that much shit for a whole week just to look like complete garbage. You had no business being there.
A little earlier,
Well,
Jimmy,
don't put
you
a
were
jersey
talking
on
about
Rocky.
you were talking
Exactly.
about
Learn your. Oh god,
players
if
that were
any
there.
Chiefs fan does that, it's a wrap. But yeah, guys. This is kind of just our recap of the season and kind of our recap of the game. And like I said, we'll have a Super Bowl preview next week. We'll put an announcement out. We'll put some, a little bit of roster together as well. But yeah, Jimmy, thank you for coming on, man. It's always a good time when you're on, and I hope we can bring you on for next week. So we'll definitely figure something out. But yeah. Other than that,
My
any
pleasure.
last thoughts from anybody?
I love you all. Thank you for having me on. Brian,
Love you
Eric,
too, man.
Zach, Morgan, and everybody who tuned in. You guys are awesome. What an effing year this has been. Let's all get those vibes high. Talk as much trash as you can to the people in the supermarket. Your team didn't play anyone. Actually, we're 9-1 against winning teams. Let them know you don't know ball. Well, you have a bad deep. Oh, number 1 in sacks, number 1 against the pass, and that's yards per game, yards per completion, yards per attempt. So just letting you know, the birds are here, and we're here to stay. I'm telling you, dynasty season is coming, and it's right here, man. So can't wait to talk to you. I will be here next week. I really want to talk some Super Bowl with you. There were so many times that I was like, I'm just not going to say anything. But this was awesome. I love you guys. It's always a pleasure. So thank you to you guys, and thank you to everyone tuning in. We're going to the Super Bowl!
And then let me tell you how much of a hot commodity Jimmy is. In order to get him on, so like we're in the chat, we're talking about who we're gonna bring on, and Morgan mentioned bring you back. I went on Jimmy's YouTube live and I started asking him like, "Hey, you coming on flipping the birds tomorrow night?"
I love that. I'm like, yo, Brian. That's awesome.
yeah.
And I love that, man. I love you guys. And it's always, dude. And look, I'm busy I spend every second of my free time, doing this Eagles stuff, but it doesn't ever mean I won't take that free time and spend it with you guys. Because I told you when I got here in the room before we were live, I love this, man. A lot of times I'm just sitting there, I love talking to the chat, but it's like, oh, man, if someone else would just. So, dude, having the four of you, this was awesome, man. It was really a true joy to be here, man. Thank you.
Our
We
pleasure.
appreciate you, brother, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, on that note, I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Jack Chavalella, Morgan Burkett, Jimmy Smith from on the road to victory, and Flipping the Birds.
Go Birds!
Go Birds! We're going to the Super Bowl.